Grzegorz Nowak is the permanent associate conductor of the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra in London. His position was made permanent in January 2015, having already served for 7 years. He has led the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra on tours to Switzerland, Turkey, and Armenia, as well as giving numerous concerts throughout the UK. His Royal Philharmonic Orchestra recordings include Mendelssohn's Scottish and Italian symphonies, Shostakovich's Symphony No. 5, all of the symphonies of Schumann, and the complete symphonies and major orchestral works of Brahms and Tchaikovsky. Grzegorz Nowak's career was propelled to international status after he won the prestigious Ernest Ansermet conducting competition in Geneva, winning the first prize and all special prizes, as well as the Grand Prix, Patek Philippe, Rolex Prize, Swiss Prize, and American Patronage Prizes. He currently holds the position of music director of the Spanish Symphony Orchestra in Madrid and of the Polish National Opera in Warsaw. His production of Goplana by Zelinsky won the 2017 Operatic Oscar from the International Opera Awards in the category of Rediscovered Work, competing with such opera theaters as La Scala in Milan, Teatro Regio di Torino, or Komische Oper Berlin.
Welcome to Poland Daily Culture.
Hello.
So I would like to start off by asking you, how has your Polish roots affected your career and your musical tastes?
Oh, I grew up in Poland. My father was an organist, so my earliest days were spent in church, listening to his wonderful organ playing and singing. And so from the early childhood, I knew that I can only be a musician. In fact, in the kindergarten, children would often play, well, one day they want to be a doctor, another day they want to be an engineer or a nurse or a fireman, and I always wanted to be a musician. So I was kind of boring for my colleagues because I always knew that there is no other way for me but to be a musician. And of course, as a child, I was given the violin, and I studied violin. Then I entered the music academy as the violinist, but I also wanted to be a conductor and composer. And I had to actually use a neat trick to be accepted, because the rules were that you could possibly study, let's say, medicine and engineering in two different schools, but not two different or three different faculties at the same university. So I used my three names in applications. One was Grzegorz Nowak, another was Rafael Nowak, and another was Maria Nowak. And only when I showed up for classes, the teachers were laughing and saying, okay, well, we'll let you conditionally for the first year. But then I just finished and everything was fine. And of course, during this education period, I grew up with Polish music, especially Chopin had this huge influence on me. But of course, also the international music, you cannot just be confined to music of one nation. And that's how it came to life. My first job was as a concertmaster at Music Theatre, while still a student. But then, as soon as I finished, I was offered to create the new orchestra, orchestra and opera in north of Poland. And it was a tremendous experience. I had to leave Poland after 4 years of this wonderful experience because a year earlier, I saw on TV Leonard Bernstein conducting, and it just paralyzed me. I thought to myself, well, what are you doing here being the youngest music director in Poland of the professional orchestra? Compared to this guy, you don't know anything. You have to go and learn something. And of course, as the saying says, if the mountain won't come to Muhammad, Muhammad has to go to mountain. I had to actually go out to the United States and study there. I studied at Eastman School of Music. It was still an interesting story because the school only offered in conducting the doctoral program, but they never accepted anybody. So that was challenging enough for me to actually go there and apply for this. And when I arrived for auditions, they asked me, well, how do we pronounce your first name? And it settled to Gregor, which was hard enough accent, but pronounceable. Well, after I conducted the orchestra for an hour, when they asked me to conduct several pieces, when they did not call me anymore Gregor, they called me Maestro. So that's when I decided that, well, it's time to tell them that if I were to study there, I needed full scholarship, because I could not get full scholarships from Poland, where the line would be like 3 or 4 years in waiting, because so many people applied before me. Well, they said, okay, we'll see what we can do. And in a week, I got a telegram that all is paid for, please come.
Sort of fast forwarding more to the present day, in 2015 you were appointed the first permanent associate conductor of the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. Could you tell us perhaps what is it that makes this orchestra so unique?
Oh, it is a fantastic ensemble. First of all, it's a group of wonderful musicians who are so good that they are at the same time very humble. There's no nose-up attitude. They are always eager to do the best with what they play, and open to any kind of interpretation. Even if they would play the same work, let's say 3 weeks in a row with different conductors, and you come in and you offer something else, they'll just go fully for it. So concerts with this orchestra are a phenomenal experience, something where you feel like you go into a different world, united with those musicians, and the energy is just phenomenal.
Grzegorz Nowak has performed alongside many of the most widely respected soloists of our time, including Martha Argerich, Yefim Bronfman, Nigel Kennedy, Anne-Sophie Mutter, Mikhail Pletnev, Mstislav Rostropovich, Gil Shaham, and Christian Zimmerman, and has worked with such singers as Janet Baker and Cheryl Milnes.
Well, you mentioned 2015, but for 10 years before, I was the principal associate conductor, so we've worked already for quite a while. And that was a tremendous honor to be named permanent conductor. After so many years of working together, I've been humbled and honored by this distinction. The orchestra released over 30 CDs under my directions, and it's all fantastic. We've also enjoyed a number of tours, including this tour in last August here in Warsaw, where we played 2 concerts. From those performances, our works will appear on 5 different CDs, so it was really very well received. And I always look forward to working with this fantastic orchestra. It's always a phenomenal experience.
So maybe looking a little bit closer into your relationship with the musicians themselves, how do you sort of build this rapport between yourself and the musicians?
It's a bit complicated situation when the conductor comes in front of the orchestra and wants to do a work. Musicians are fantastic professionals, and they've done most of those works many times before, so they often have ideas. This way or another way, they like this performance or another performance. A conductor has to be really very convincing in his vision, so that musicians would accept it and want to do the best in this particular interpretation. They are especially, like in the Royal Philharmonic, they are especially interested if you have some fresh ideas, different ideas, not necessarily repeating something which they've done already many times. And they always enjoy it. But at the same time, I've done a number of things which the orchestra has played for the first time. Like, for example, we've done a recording of first poems by Karłowicz, Polish composer. Phenomenal works, actually, but the orchestra has never played it. And they enjoyed it tremendously, and they've done a fabulous job. So the recording is out in the market, and I really recommend it. It's a fantastic playing.
So do you sort of speak to them on a kind of one-to-one basis, or as a kind of collective to...
Most of all, it's during the rehearsals, so it's collective ensemble. And in the rehearsal, a lot comes from the conducting itself, from the conducting technique. But also, if you want to work on the details, you have to have the very clear ideas what you want. Let's say if the sound you would like to have some kind of different color, different sound or something. You have to be very precise. So the rehearsal doesn't turn into a lecture, that it still is a working session where most of the time is filled with playing and achieving a particular ideas. And it's always important that you are so convincing that the musicians actually want to do it. And obviously they do, because in the reviews even we get a number of comments that the orchestra is galvanized and fired, and that they enjoy very much working with me. And hence this nomination for a permanent conductor.
Throughout your career, you have received multiple awards. Is there any one in particular which is special to you?
The most important for development of my career was winning the Ernest Anserme conducting competition in Geneva. That's a very big competition, which actually, monster competition, lasted 3 months, because each candidate got 3 rehearsals and a concert with various orchestras. First stage with orchestra from Grenoble, French orchestra, then from the orchestra in Biel in Switzerland, and the finals with the orchestra from Geneva, Suisse Romande, Orchestre de la Suisse Romande. Jury was composed in each round from different jurors, very famous musicians, and also from musicians of those orchestras. On top, the results from each round were not given to jurors of the next round. Only afterwards I learned that I've won in every round, but it was a very tough competition. There were actually only 2 first prize winners in the history of this competition. Yours truly and Alan Gilbert, who was music director of the New York Philharmonic. So it also tells you about the level of this particular competition. And this, of course, created immediately engagement throughout the world. While I was waiting for the concert of laureates, I already got a number of invitations through the competition, because various orchestras were asking for engagements right away. And among them was my first concert just a few months later with the London Symphony Orchestra, and the first recording with the London Symphony. So it opened the door to all stages around the world.
And when was that?
That was a long time ago.